There is a crisis in the church today that many do not recognize, yet it is as clear to heaven as thunder is to the sky. It is not the lack of buildings. It is not the shortage of programs. It is not even the decay of morality in the world. It is the quiet crisis in the hearts of believers, a crisis in the way they pray. So many are praying, yet so few are connecting. So many are speaking, but so few are hearing. Prayers are going up like smoke, but there is no fire. Words are being formed on lips, but they are not shaking the heavens. And the question that must be asked is why? Because most of God's people have learned to repeat prayers rather than to release prayers. They have been taught formulas, not fellowship. They've memorized routines, but missed the revelation. They cry, but not from the depths of their souls. They bow, but not in full surrender. They lift their hands, but not their hearts. And the result is prayer without power, petitions without presence, and noise without nearness. Prayer was never meant to be a performance. It was never meant to be a religious routine. It was never supposed to be reduced to a checklist of needs or a spiritual chore to earn favor. Prayer is communion. Prayer is alignment. Prayer is the lifeline between the heart of man and the throne of God. And when that connection is broken, everything else becomes hollow. So many stand in churches, lift up their voices, and yet feel nothing. They pray for healing, but remain broken. They ask for breakthrough, but remain bound. They seek wisdom, yet stay confused. Not because God has grown deaf, not because he is distant, but because the way they approach him is distorted. Jesus did not leave us without instruction. He gave us the pattern, the key, the structure, the spirit of how we are to approach the Father. And he began by destroying the false models that had crept into the hearts of the religious. In Matthew chapter 6, he spoke boldly. When you pray, do not be like the hypocrites. They love to stand in the synagogues and on the street corners to be seen by others. But when you pray, go into your room, close the door, and pray to your Father who is unseen. Then your Father, who sees what is done in secret, will reward you. That was not a mere suggestion. It was a holy correction. He was cutting away the dead branches of self, righteousness, exposing the rotten mechanical religion, and inviting hearts back into the secret place. What does this mean? It means prayer is not for the crowd, it is for the cloud. It is not for the eyes of men, but for the gaze of the Father. The power of prayer is not in how loudly it is spoken, but in how deeply it is believed. It is not about public display. It is about private intimacy. Yet in this generation, too many want stage prayers without secret fire. They want results without relationship. They want heaven to answer while they remain half-hearted, distracted, and self-centered. But heaven does not respond to performance. It responds to posture. It responds to hunger. It responds to those who truly seek him, not his blessings, not his gifts. But God is not impressed with eloquence. He is not moved by vocabulary. He is not swayed by spiritual theatrics. He is drawn to humility. He is moved by brokenness. He responds to the one who comes with nothing but a desperate heart. And yet, we have traded intimacy for activity. We have replaced stillness with structure. We have preferred repetition over revelation. And in doing so, we have lost the power that once shook rooms, opened prisons, healed the sick, and changed nations. Look back at the early church. They didn't have microphones. They didn't have stages. They didn't have social media. But they had prayer, and their prayers weren't safe. Their prayers weren't cold. Their prayers were fiery, raw, passionate, and full of faith. They prayed until the ground shook. They prayed until chains broke. They prayed until the Spirit fell. Where has that kind of prayer gone? Where is the weeping between the porch and the altar? Where are the watchmen on the wall crying out day and night? Where are the intercessors who tremble in the secret place until heaven responds? The truth is this: many have not been taught the true essence of prayer. They have been told that prayer is about asking. But prayer is not just asking, it is becoming. It is becoming one with the will of God. It is becoming aware of his presence. It is becoming aligned with his heart. That's why Jesus rebuked the idea of meaningless repetition. He said, "Do not keep on babbling like the pagans, for they think they will be heard because of their many words." There is no formula to impress God. There is only faith that surrenders. God doesn't want you to convince him with endless phrases. He wants you to commune with him in truth. The invitation is clear. Come unto me, all you who are weary and heavy laden, and I will give you rest. He wants your presence more than your perfection. He desires your heart more than your habits. He longs to meet you in the secret place, not to lecture you, but to love you, to guide you, to fill you, to transform you. So many say, I don't feel God when I pray, but prayer is not about feeling. It is about faith. Even when it seems silent, he is listening. Even when nothing changes around you, he is changing something within you. And if you keep showing up in the secret place, heaven will break through in due season. The time has come to return. Return to the altar. Return to the closet. Return to the prayer that pleases the Father, not prayer for show, but prayer that flows. Not prayer to impress, but prayer to intercede. Not prayer to inform God, but prayer that invites him in. Let every heart hear this call. It's time to stop praying wrong. It's time to stop performing. It's time to pray with purity, passion, and power. It's time to pray the way Jesus intended. If prayer is broken, then the solution must begin with the one who prayed perfectly, the one who never sinned, the one who walked in constant union with the Father, the one who never prayed in vain. If anyone knew how to talk to God, it was Jesus. And yet, how few have truly studied how he prayed. Not just that he prayed, but how. Not just what he said, but the spirit behind his words. For in his life, he didn't just model miracles, he modeled prayer. And in doing so, he revealed what heaven listens for. The Gospels tell us time and time again that Jesus often withdrew to lonely places and prayed. Think of that. The Son of God, the one who held all authority, still found it necessary to withdraw from the noise, to separate from the crowd, and to commune with the Father in secret. This alone speaks volumes. If Jesus needed to step away from the distractions of the world to align himself in prayer, how much more do we? If the Holy One made room for solitude, how much more should the broken? But what made his prayer so powerful was not just the location. It was the posture. Jesus did not come to bend the Father's will. He came to surrender to it in the Garden of Gethsemane when the weight of the cross pressed against his soul. He did not plead for comfort. He did not demand escape. He fell to the ground and cried out, "Not my will, but yours be done." There it is. The secret, the code, the divine align, the center of all powerful prayer. It is not in demanding your way. It is in yielding to his. Real prayer is not about trying to manipulate heaven to fulfill your agenda. Real prayer is about climbing onto the altar and saying, "Burn away my will until only yours remains." When the disciples asked Jesus, "Lord, teach us to pray," he did not give them a magic phrase. He gave them a blueprint. He said, "When you pray, say, 'Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven.'" Pause and consider the weight of those words. This is not casual conversation. This is a spiritual transaction. This is not small talk. This is warfare, intimacy, surrender, and reverence wrapped into one sacred moment. Our Father, not, oh, distant deity, not mighty judge, not great unknown. No, Father. That word shakes the foundations of religion. It speaks of intimacy. It declares identity. It reminds the soul you are not a beggar. You are not orphan. You are not forgotten. And you are a child of the Most High God, who art in heaven. Not only is he intimate, he is exalted. He is enthroned. He is not your peer. He is your king. He rules from a throne of righteousness. His ways are higher. His vision is clearer. His justice is perfect. So when you speak to him, speak with boldness, but never without reverence. Hallowed be your name. Let your name be made holy in me, in my life, in my words, in my thoughts. This is worship, not a song, not a melody, but a surrendering of the heart that says, "Let me live in a way that honors your name, O Lord. Your kingdom come." That's not asking for your plans to succeed. That's not praying for comfort. That's saying, "Let your rule, your order, your righteousness invade my chaos. Let the throne of heaven govern my decisions. Let heaven's agenda override mine. Your will be done." That's the breaking point. That's where many stop. That's where flesh dies. Because that line requires the crucifixion of self. It requires the slaying of your preferences. It demands the silence of your own ambitions. But that's where power begins. Because when you die to your will, you make room for his resurrection life to flow through you. This is how Jesus prayed, with reverence, with faith, with intimacy, but most of all, with surrender. He didn't treat prayer as a duty. He didn't clock in and clock out. He didn't rush through it. He lived in it. He breathed in it. He wept in it. He travailed in it. And look at the result. Demons fled. The sick were healed. The dead were raised. Why? Because he did not speak on his own. He said, I only do what I see the Father doing. In other words, he did not move until heaven moved first. His life was synced with the rhythm of God. And yet, so many today pray and then proceed without ever listening. They pray to be heard, but they do not stay to hear. They speak, but they do not wait. They ask, but they do not discern. And then they wonder why their lives are filled with confusion and their prayers feel powerless. But Jesus showed us the path. He showed us that the true power of prayer is not just in what you say, it's in how you surrender. It's not just in words, it's in alignment. That's why the Bible says in 1 John 5:5-14, this is the confidence we have in approaching God, that if we ask anything according to his will, he hears us. There it is again, the divine condition. Not just any request, but one aligned with his will. So the great call is not to pray harder. It is to pray holier, not to say more, but to yield more. Not to try to impress God, but to allow him to impress his heart upon yours. To pray like Jesus is to pray as a son. To pray like Jesus is to listen as much as you speak. To pray like Jesus is to enter the secret place, not with an agenda, but with adoration. This is how the heavens open. This is how the earth is changed. This is how revival begins, not through eloquence, not through noise, not through routine, but through men and women who will kneel before God in full surrender and say, let your will be done in me, through me, and around me. This is the way. This is the Jesus way. And this is the call to return to the pattern, to rebuild the altar, and to rediscover the power of praying like the Son. Let every heart hear this truth. It's not just what you say in prayer, but how you come before God. It's not simply about the words that leave your mouth, but the condition of the heart that lifts them up. You can speak the language of angels, quote scripture with precision, and cry out night and day. But if the posture is wrong, heaven will not respond. There is a divine posture that moves heaven. A spiritual position that causes the Father to lean in, not a physical posture. Though kneeling, bowing, and lifting hands have their place. But what matters most is the posture of the soul, the alignment of the heart, and the humility of the spirit. Let the proud be warned, pride is the poison of prayer. The self-righteous may be heard by crowds, but they are ignored by heaven. The Pharisees stood in the temple and recited a spiritual R.A. Summe, fasting, tithing, keeping the law. Yet Jesus said he walked away unjustified. Meanwhile, a broken tax collector, unworthy, ashamed, head bowed, chest beating, whispered, God, have mercy on me, a sinner. And the heavens responded. Why? Because God resists the proud, but gives grace to the humble. The prayer of the righteous is powerful and effective. Yes, but only when righteousness flows from surrender, not self. There is a difference between coming to God as a servant and as a son. A servant begs. A son believes. A servant waits outside the door. A son walks in boldly. That's why Hebrews 4:16 declares, let us then approach the throne of grace with confidence so that we may receive mercy and find grace to help in our time of need. Not arrogance, not entitlement, but bold confidence rooted in sonship. When the prodigal returned home, he rehearsed his speech. Father, I am no longer worthy to be called your son. But the father cut him off. He didn't let him finish the apology. Why? Because identity matters more than performance. He put a robe on his back, a ring on his hand, and shoes on his feet. Not because of what the son did, but because of who the Father is. So when you approach God, do not approach as one trying to earn favor. Approach as one who knows you've been invited. Your place is secured by the blood of Jesus. You are not tolerated. You are welcomed. You are not barely accepted. You are deeply loved. But even in boldness, never lose the reverence. Confidence must walk hand in hand with humility. We do not come into his presence flippantly. He is not your peer. He is not your employee. He is the creator of the universe, clothed in unapproachable light, seated on the throne of glory. Angels veil their faces before him. Demons tremble at his voice. The earth melts at his presence. And yet he invites you in. Think of that. The same God who thundered at Sinai, who split the sea, who raised the dead, calls you friend. The posture that moves heaven is the posture of a trembling child in the arms of a loving father. It's the heart that says, I am nothing without you, but in you, I have everything. When you pray, do not come with a checklist. Come with an open heart. Do not come trying to impress God. Come ready to be impressed by him. Don't rush. Don't perform. Just come and be still. Be still and know that I am God. That is not a passive suggestion. It is a divine instruction. Because when the soul stills, the spirit speaks. When the noise fades, the whisper becomes clear. In the stillness, your spirit aligns. In the stillness, your motives are exposed. In the stillness, heaven becomes near. The posture that moves heaven is one of expectation, not wishful thinking, but confident hope in God's character. Reverence, not fear of rejection, but awe of his majesty. Persistence, not pushing God, but standing in unwavering faith. Gratitude, not demanding, but thanking him for who he is, not just what he does. Remember the woman with the issue of blood. She didn't speak a word, but her posture said it all. She crawled through the crowd. I reached for the hem of his garment, and her faith touched the divine. Jesus stopped. Heaven paused. Power flowed. He didn't see a performance. He saw posture. And posture always precedes power. So many today come to God like lawyers in a courtroom, arguing their case, pleading for justice, presenting evidence. But God is not looking for lawyers. He is looking for lovers. He is looking for those who will fall on their face and cry, Abba, Father, I belong to you. Others come as victims, defeated, hopeless, rehearsing their pain. But God says, lift your head, stand in my presence, speak as my child, declare my promises. For the posture of heaven is not fear, it is faith, not despair, but declaration, not complaint, but confidence. Let this be the hour where the church returns to that posture. Let believers pray like David, freed in me a clean heart, O God. Like Moses, show me your glory. Like Isaiah, here I am, send me. Like Mary, let it be unto me according to your word. Like Jesus, not my will, but yours be done. These are not just words, they are windows. They open the heavens, they move angels, they shift atmospheres. The world is not waiting for louder churches. The world is groaning for deeper believers. Those who have touched heaven in the secret place. Those whose knees are worn, but whose spirits are alive. Those who know that before revival comes to the streets, it must come to the soul. This is the call to posture the heart rightly, to enter boldly and kneel humbly, to pray with open hands and surrendered wills, to know that God is not looking for perfect words, but a perfectly yielded vessel. When that posture is found, the fire will fall. And when the fire falls, the world will know that our God is alive. There is a promise hanging in the atmosphere, waiting to land on the lives of those who pray not with perfection, but with alignment. A divine guarantee rests on those who pray, not out of fear, not from religious repetition, but out of love, faith, and surrender to the will of God. Prayer, when done the Jesus way, is not empty effort. It is the highway of miracles. It is not wishful thinking. It is kingdom partnership. Heaven does not turn a deaf ear to those who pray right. Heaven does not stay still when the righteous cry. The word is clear, the pattern is proven, and the testimonies echo across generations. When God's people pray with power, purpose, and purity, something always happens. The Lord declared it plainly in Jeremiah 29:130, you will seek me and find me when you seek me with all your heart. All your heart. Not just Sunday mornings, not just in moments of panic, not just for 5 rushed minutes in the car. All your heart, fully, completely, without distraction, without division. And what is the result? He says, you will find me. That is the promise. The reward of true prayer is not merely the answer. It is the encounter with God himself. His presence is the greatest gift. His voice is the greatest breakthrough. His nearness is the highest reward. When prayer becomes a place of communion instead of complaint, heaven responds. When you stop approaching God like a vending machine and start coming as a yielded vessel, The heavens open over your life. Jesus said it clearly in Matthew 7:7-80, ask, and it will be given to you, seek, and you will find, knock, and the door will be open to you. And then he says something extraordinary: for everyone who asks receives, the one who seeks finds, and to the one who knocks, the door will be opened. Not maybe, not sometimes, not if you're lucky, he says everyone. But not everyone who throws words in the air. Everyone who prays according to the divine pattern. Everyone who approaches with reverence, faith, and surrender. Everyone who aligns their prayers with God's will. Everyone who perseveres in prayer, even when the answer tarries. Because prayer is not always about immediate answers. It is about eternal outcomes. It is about shifting realities in the unseen realm. When Daniel prayed, the answer was released on the first day, but it took 21 days to manifest because there was warfare in the spirit realm. Child of God, do not stop praying because you see no change. Do not grow weary just because you don't feel it. If your prayer is aligned with God's will, something is moving, even when you don't see it. Something is breaking, even when it looks still. God is faithful, and his word does not return void. Those who pray right walk in divine favor. Look at Hannah. Barren, mocked, desperate. But she poured out her soul before the Lord, not for recognition, not with religious routine, but with brokenness and faith, and heaven responded. Not just with a son, but with a prophet who would change the nation. Look at Elijah, a man like us, yet he prayed earnestly, and the skies obeyed. Not because he was special, but because he was surrendered. He prayed according to heaven's will, and heaven honored the prayer. Look at Paul and Silas. Beaten, in prison. But what did they do at midnight? They prayed and praised, not as a performance, not for pity, but because they were connected to the throne. And what happened? The earth shook. Chains broke. Doors opened. This is the kind of prayer God is calling us back to. Prayer that invades prisons. Prayer that commands the rain. Prayer that gives birth to prophets. Prayer that shifts destinies. You may not have the title of a preacher. You may not have studied theology. But if you can pray the right way, you can shake heaven and earth, because the power of prayer is not in the one who prays. It's in the one who listens. He has promised that if we ask anything according to his will, he hears us. And if we know that he hears us, we know that we have what we asked of him. That's 1 John 5:1-2-15. Not a man's opinion, a divine covenant. The time for powerless prayer is over. The days of lukewarm praying must end. God is raising up a people who will pray like warriors, who will enter the secret place with fire in their belly and glory on their lips, who will not settle for a form of godliness, but will press in until power falls. This is your hour. This is your moment. Heaven is listening. The throne is open. The Spirit is interceding. The blood is made away. All of heaven waits for someone who will rise up and say, Lord, teach me to pray, not my way, not the world's way, but your way. Well, say this now from your heart. I will pray with power. I will pray with alignment. I will pray with boldness, reverence, and faith. I will not settle for empty prayers. I will pray the Jesus way, and I will see heaven move in my life. Because when you pray God's way, you don't just say words, you partner with eternity. You don't just make noise, you release supernatural authority. You don't just hope, you walk in faith. And the God who sees in secret will reward you openly. This is the promise for those who pray right, and it is yours right now. Today, heaven is waiting. Will you pray?